Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. 1 second, sorry, I forgot to record. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. Always to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj's daily call. Today we are very fortunate to have Her Grace Radha Vinodini Mataji. Mataji is going to continue the series of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 10. Verse number 31 and 32. Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances and goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for your time and association for all of us today. You can please take over, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila, all glories to Guru Maharaj. So we will continue with this Srimad Bhagavatam series. I will start sharing. Okay. So we will actually speak about two verses today. I have to apologize before I start, because when Srimati Mataji asked me how many verses I would like to cover, I just checked that this 31st verse doesn't have a purport, so let's include the next verse, but the topic is quite different. So I was a bit puzzled. But I hope something interesting will come out of this. I will speak a little bit of both and a little bit of something else. Let's see. So, Om Magyanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyamadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimate Candramauli Swami Namine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the first verse is Evam Vida Gadantinam Sagira Purayoshitam Nirikshanena Binandan Sasmitena Yoyohari. Srila Prabhupada's translation. While the ladies of the capital, Hastinapura, were greeting him and talking in this way, the Lord, smiling, accepted their good greetings and casting the grace of his glance over them, he departed from the city. So we continue to the next verse. Ajata Shatru Pritanam Gopitaya Madhudvishaha Parebhya Shankita Snehat Prayungta Chatur Anginim. Srila Prabhupada's translation. Maharaj Yudhishthira, although no one's enemy, engaged 4 divisions of defense, horse, elephant, chariot, and army, to accompany Lord Krishna, the enemy of the Asuras, demons. The Maharaj did this because of the enemy and also out of affection for the Lord. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Natural defensive measures are horses and elephants combined with chariots and men. Horses and elephants are trained to move to any part of the hills or forests and plains. The charioteers could fight with many horses and elephants by the strength of powerful arrows, even up to the standard of the Brahmastra, similar to modern atomic weapons. Maharaj Yudhishthira knew well that Krishna is everyone's friend and well-wisher, and yet there were asuras who were by nature envious of the Lord. So out of fear of attack from others and out of affection also, he engaged all varieties of defensive forces as bodyguards of Lord Krishna. If required, Lord Krishna himself was sufficient to defend himself from the attack of others who counted the Lord as their enemy, but still he accepted all the arrangements made by Maharaj Yudhishthir because he could not disobey the king, who was his elder cousin. The Lord plays the part of a subordinate in his transcendental sporting, and thus sometimes he puts himself in the care of Yashodamata for his protection in his so-called helplessness of childhood. That is the transcendental lila or pastime of the Lord. The basic principle for all the transcendental exchanges between the Lord and his devotees is exhibited to enjoy the transcendental bliss for which there is no comparison, even up to the level of Brahmananda. So as you can see, the topic is totally different in these two verses, and I have problems, difficulties with being in two separate meditation. So I really was wondering what could be the common topic of these two, and in the end I think I found something, and it was etiquette. Because in the first verse, we can see how Krishna interacted with women of the city based on etiquette. And also in the next verse, in the second one, we can see that based on etiquette and also based on affection for Yudhishthir Maharaj, how he accepted his protection. So I thought I would speak about this topic, and because etiquette is a special type of rules. That's where I would like to start, and somehow we will get to the verses in the end. So when we speak about rules and regulations, we should mention that there are different type of rules. So there are of course the four basic regulative principles, which are really to be followed, because if we don't follow those, then we will engage ourselves in sinful activities, and those will definitely in a very fast way will drag us down, and we will fall down from our position. But also there are etiquette rules, there are cultural rules, and so the importance of these is and the effect of these are different. But actually, all the rules which are there in the Vedas, the main goal is to lift us up and to the level that in the end we learn how to love and how to follow Krishna. So actually, it's very beneficial to follow all the rules. But, there is a priority amongst those rules. There are many benefits. So one thing is that if we follow the different types of rules and regulations, it helps us to purify ourselves from the previous karmic reactions. It also helps us not to commit new sinful activities, so it actually protects us from future reactions. Also, when we follow rules and regulations, we actually learn to control the mind, because the mind likes to jump here and there and in an uncontrolled way. But the only way to learn to control the mind is to start to control it, and this is how we can do it, following regulations. This is one way how we can do it. So in the end, our mind can be our friend instead of our enemy. And so following rules gradually lift us up, guiding us towards the the mode of goodness from the mode of passion and ignorance. And in the end, sadhana bhakti is actually following a controlled life. And if we properly follow these regulations based on what is there in the scriptures, what the acharyas said about these things, gradually we can learn how to love Krishna, how to have affection for him. So I found one very interesting verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, when Lord Krishna speaks to Uddhava, and he speaks about regulative duties. He says that just as I, the Supreme Lord, execute regulative duties by my own free will, similarly, one who has realized knowledge of me should maintain general cleanliness, purify his hands with water, take bath, and execute other regulative duties. And here is the important part, not by force, but by his own free will. And when I read this at first, I was really surprised, because for me, following duties, following regulative principles was always like, okay, yeah, I must follow these. So like, it's not my own decision. But Krishna says here that we have to learn how to follow it by our own free will. And actually, all these rules and regulations are for those who are in the lower modes. And actually, that's why, because most of us are in the lower modes very much. And that's why we don't want to follow these regulative principles, because this is difficult, So it doesn't come naturally. And this is why it's advised, it's suggested that all of those who are in the lower modes of nature should follow these. And I also remember that there is one verse in Bhagavad Gita which connected to this. I will have a nice picture about this topic. So Krishna says to Arjuna here that there are 3 gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So this verse speaks about how we go downwards from the mode of goodness towards the lower modes, passion and even ignorance. And I was thinking a lot, why these 3? Because actually we hear that anger and greed both come from lust. I will share this other picture which I told you. Yeah, so it's here. So I don't know if do you. I hope you see my mouse pointer also, but if not, that's not a problem.
Yes.
So anyway, sorry.
Yes, we can see, Mataji.
Oh, okay. That's better. Thank you. So last is where everything starts, because we have desires, and this thing that we have desires, it's natural. Srila Prabhupada many times said that we will have desires, whatever we do. It's our nature to have desires. The problem is that when we have lusty desires, so lust is the problem. And when we are dependent on the circumstances, this is what happens. These 2 scenarios are there. So we have a desire for something. So we don't get what we want. And in that case, we will be angry. And that's the mode of ignorance. When we get what we want, then we will be greedy. We will want more of it, or we will want something else if we get bored of it. So these 2 options are not really good, because these direct us towards the lower modes of nature. And actually, in these two cases, there is not even no free will, because we are just the victim of the circumstances. And so because lust is the root of these two, so we could say that, okay, Krishna don't have to mention all these three, because these two are the consequences of lust. So actually lust is which leads us towards hell. But there is a third way, and Krishna also speaks about this, that we can choose to tolerate. So in that case, we are not dependent on the circumstances. And in that case, we guide ourselves towards the mode of goodness. And in that case, something starts, some kind of free will. But in this case, we could say that, okay, because these two are the problem, anger and greed, and lust can lead to other direction also, then why didn't Krishna mention only these two? Because this is just the root, and these two are the problems. The problem is that Krishna also mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that, sorry, I'm just looking for the exact verse. So yeah, so Krishna says that though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But seizing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So, we are doing austerities. There were so many sages doing tapasya, and what happened? Menaka came, Ramba came, or in case of Ajamila, there was that couple he saw, or, sometimes I have this experience that I'm just walking by the temple shop, seeing all these beautiful cakes there, and there is temptation, and after some time, if there is no higher taste, then we just get tired, and at some point, some kind of temptation will come, which we will fall victim to, and that's why it's important that we should also get a higher taste. So these two austerities, tolerating our lusty desires and also connected with Krishna, that's what really works. So all these three are important. These two are the problem. But if these two are not there, even lust in itself can cause problem, because if we just tolerate it and don't connect it with something higher, then there will be a problem. There will be a fall down. So the main point is that actually following rules means that we are at least at this stage doing the austerity, because free will and spiritual life really starts there, that we want to achieve that level, and regulative principles help us to get there. We are doing something which we don't really want to, but we understand that this is good. And when we reach the mode of goodness, there will be knowledge which supports following these rules and regulations. And also, when you get used to it, that okay, you take bath 2 times a day, and you are always clean, and something happens during the day which causes that you are not clean, you will feel that, okay, I want to take a shower because it doesn't feel good, because you are so much used to being clean. So that's how it works, that in that case, we can follow the rules and regulations out of our own free will, because we don't feel comfortable not following the rules, because we can feel that it leads to worse results than following them. And also, two shorter points, because I don't want to go into much more detail in it, because it's just the basis for the following points. So one other aspect is that we want to follow the rules, but we don't want to stuck on the mode of goodness. And that's what it means is that I want to follow the rules, but I'm not a servant to it, because there might be situations when I have to how to say it, not following them. Sorry, my English just sometimes not good enough. So sometimes there are situations when we cannot follow or shouldn't follow them. For example, there was this case when Yudhishthir Maharaj should have lied. Krishna personally asked him to lie, and for him it was a difficulty. But whatever Krishna wants is top priority. And sometimes it also happens that we also don't lie because we want to follow the path of truthfulness, but when the goal is preaching, and we want to distribute Krishna's message to as many people as possible, sometimes in order for them to accept it, we are doing some cheating here and there, and that's also acceptable. Even our gurus, who know what is pleasing for Krishna, they sometimes they ask us to do. I remember that lately a Mataji told me that one devotee who went to a certain type of event, and he wanted to preach, but that was an event where all these materialists gathered. So the guru of this devotee told him to, okay, just dress up like a non-devotee. So he showed himself like someone else. And actually, what we already mentioned, that the ultimate goal of following rules is that it pleases Krishna. So whatever we do, the goal is always to please Krishna. Our happiness is the main point in our life. So jumping to the next point is etiquette. So etiquette is a special type of rule, because it regulates our interactions with each other. And it's not like, okay, I don't kill another person or something like that, but regulates how to behave towards each other, how to show properly respect and these type of things. And when we don't follow etiquette, it's always it's not beneficial, never beneficial when we don't follow etiquette. But there might be more serious troubles we get into, or less serious troubles we get into. The more serious trouble is when we even commit an offense. So, one type of offense towards devotees is that we don't properly show our respect. And it's Vaishnava aparad, actually. So not the more serious one, but still a Vaishnava aparad. And it can have serious consequences. So one thing is that we should know whom to properly show our respect and how to properly show our respect. And etiquette will tell us these things. And the other thing is, maybe we don't commit a sinful act towards the other person, but it can happen that we don't get the full benefit of associating with devotees. There is this this verse. I will show you. Yeah, this one. Yeah. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, there is this verse. Every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate towards him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. So one thing which I would like to emphasize, it's absolutely beneficial to follow this, because if we properly follow the above mentioned points, then we won't be affected by the threefold miseries. So that's something worth achieving, I suppose. And the previous points tell us how to interact with others. And, you know, when we properly show respect to more qualified devotees than ourselves, when we inquire from them in a proper mood, when we serve them, then actually we get benefit. We can develop our Krishna consciousness. So it's really beneficial. But also, it's important how we behave with our peers and our juniors, because, for example, you know, if we don't with our juniors, then by, you know, karmic reaction, or Krishna teaches us that we will also won't get a proper attitude from our seniors. So all these things are in balance, and we can actually get a lot of benefit. We can learn so much. We can purify ourselves so much from the association of devotees. But we have to do it properly, and we have to know the science behind it, because if we don't act according to proper etiquette, then we just slow down our progress in Krishna consciousness, and that's why it's really important. And the basis of all this etiquette is respect and humility. And, you know, many times we just neglect etiquette because we value so much familiarity. Actually, familiarity would be, you know, the expression of loving attitude. But many times, familiarity means that we just neglect respect. And when respect is not there, then actually this equality, which would be our goal in familiarity, it's just not there, because it means if we don't show proper respect, then it means that I think I am better than others. I deserve more respect than others, than the other person. So the basis of etiquette is respect. It's really important to keep in mind. Okay, let's get back to our verses. So in the first verse, we could hear about how Krishna interacted with these ladies. It's very, very inspiring to see his behavior, because you can see that he's smiling. So he's very kind, and doesn't tell all these ladies that, oh, okay, I'm a married man, you are someone else, I don't even look at you. But he's kind, he's smiling at them and accepted their greetings. But at the same time, it for me at least, it meant that casting the grace of his glance. So he was he showed his mercy. So it also wasn't so confidential than how he acts in Braja. So it actually shows an example for us, which is more safe to follow than his behavior at home, I would say. So he's totally interacting based on etiquette here. And for us, it's actually many times also a question how to behave, someone from the other gender. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is in Canto 7, there is this verse which really strongly speaks about this topic. So woman is compared to fire and man is compared to a butter pot. Therefore, a man should avoid associating even with his own daughter in a secluded place. Similarly, he should also avoid association with other women. One should associate with women only for important business and not otherwise. And it's a really interesting topic because my experience is that even amongst devotees, there are some devotees who think that it's a popular worldview that there can be friendship between men and women, and when we act according to this worldview, then we can get into big trouble. And it's important to remember that Shastra doesn't confirm this point. Whenever we read about relationship, I mean how men and women connect to each other, it always states that there is the husband, there is the wife, and just keep distance from all others. So actually, Shastra speaks about friendship between men and women, as far as I know, only once, and that one case is Draupadi. But Draupadi's friend is Krishna, so it's not really such an example for us to follow with whatever man, in my case, men, or for Prabhu's women. To follow this example. So there is only this one example and no other. All other times Shastras say to keep distance because that's safe. And in this regard, there is one interesting purport from Srila Prabhupada. It's in the 6th canto, chapter 1, verse 13 to 14. And here he says that 8 aspects of brahmacharya, but at other places he mentions the same list. And actually these are how to, if we don't follow these guidelines, actually we in a subtle way, we don't follow the regulative principles of sex life, because if we don't follow this, then it's subtle sex life actually. So he says that brahmacharya, the life of celibacy, has 8 aspects. One should not think of women, speak about sex life, dally with women, look lustfully at women, talk intimately with women, or decide to engage in sexual intercourse, nor should one endeavor for sex life or engage in sex life. So it's a wide range of activities, but please notice the lightest one, even to think of women. It means that in a subtle way, we don't follow the 4 regulative principles. And it means 2 things, that if we meditate on the other gender too much, then at some point it will manifest also on a gross level. So if we don't follow the regulative principles in a subtle way, then at some point we won't follow them even on the gross level. So that's one point. And also, when we protect Dharma, then also Dharma will protect us. It's actually the same with different words, but if we don't follow the laws of Dharma, then we will surely get in trouble, and Dharma won't protect us. And so also when we try to be friendly with someone from the other gender, it means that we want to enjoy. We want to enjoy the other person, but without taking responsibility. And one of the principles of our spiritual lives, I could say, that whatever we do, we have to accept the responsibility for that. Actually, the laws of karma is which guarantees that we cannot avoid responsibility. So we can choose if I want to take responsibility now, according to the Shastra, or if I have to take responsibility later by karmic reactions. So that's what we can choose. And so this is about the relationship between men and women. And the second verse was also really nice, how Krishna followed Maharaj Yudhishthir's arrangements. So one thing is that because this is the etiquette part, that because Maharaj Yudhishthir was his elder cousin, so the etiquette was that Krishna follows whatever Maharaj Yudhishthir asks or arranges for him. Also, we could read about this, that it was the expression of the loving affection of Maharaj Yudhishthir. So obviously Krishna accepts when one of his devotees serves him. But here he again sets a nice example for us about following superiors. Because Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that for if I ever failed to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. So we actually all the time see that Krishna follows his own rules, and he does this, as he mentioned, out of his own free will, but also for us to see the example how it should be done. And when we follow superiors, then we will get empowerment in many ways. It's important, obviously, to properly choose whom we would like to follow. That's why it is said that even before accepting a guru, there is this period of time when the aspiring disciple and the guru just observes each other, because it's such an important decision that really we have to take it seriously, whom we would like to accept as our guru. Because if we accept certain guru and get initiation, then we actually take this vow that we will follow him. And it's also, if we properly follow him, then it will be such a strong empowerment. I once in a Christian book, so it was one really inspiring quote for me. It said that obedience is none other than we let others to carry us. And this is actually what happens, that when we follow someone, then they carry us. We have to make some effort. We have to be obedient, But if an empowered devotee is leading us and we follow him, then we also get empowerment. So there is great benefit in it. Okay, I think I finished. So it's all these topics are we could speak so much about this, but maybe we could open up for some discussion.
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much. That's detailedly explaining these two verses and also telling about the Vaishnava etiquette and how to respect and also follow the etiquette and everything. Thank you so much, Mataji. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or comments or realizations, you can please go ahead. Yes, Raj Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Guru Maharaj. All glories to you, Radha Vinodini message.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Thank you. Thank you for this interesting class. Thank you for being brave and speaking about subjects that are very often not spoken about, or people shy away from the speaking about, but they're important. They're very, very important. I'd like to make a comment and then ask a question. Firstly, I thought you linked the verses nicely with talking about etiquette and rules and regulations. And I could see how the verses were also linked, because they also talked about protection, and they both also talked about mercy, and the three are very interlinked. We've got the classic example by following, we have a guru. If we follow the correct etiquette, we follow the rules and regulations, then we get protection and we get mercy by following the instructions nicely. I have a question on the diagram. Thank you for the diagram. Anytime someone presents with a diagram, it's very helpful. And it always reminds me of our Jankinath Prabhu, because he explained everything with diagrams. I actually think that maybe one day we should resurrect all his diagrams and produce a book explaining each diagram. That would be so wonderful.
It's a good idea.
But the question is, in your diagram, you had, we have the lust, for example, and lust can lead to either anger or greed. Yes, thank you. But then the third branch, where if we tolerate it, it leads to that's austerity or goodness. Now, I felt like I had a strong question, and then my view of the question completely changed in the second half of your class, because initially I was going to ask, is tolerating truly an option? Because the fire is still burning, the fire of desire is still burning. If we try to tolerate, maybe we can for a while, but at some stage, all that pent-up lust is going to explode, possibly. In other cases, we might engage in a seemingly innocent activity, which kind of like seeks its way through to something worse. It can come out in different ways. But then when you talked about the second half, and you talked specifically about engaging in illicit sex in any shape or form, even in mild forms. And then it made it clear that actually tolerating is not an option. It's the only way that we can deal with this is by replacing that with the desire to connect with Krishna, the desire to seek love of Krishna, the desire to reach Krishna, anything, because without that, our toleration means nothing. We can just do it for a while, but then we may end up worse off. So I just open it up for your comments and on that.
Yeah, the point here was that tolerating is only for the present, not for all the future. We all the time tolerate, because that's what I mentioned, that it's just not possible, because at some point we won't be able to tolerate anymore. And that's why it's really important. Higher taste is, connecting everything with Krishna is actually investing into the future. So while now I don't act according to my lusty desire, but meanwhile I'm, how they say, dovetailing it. So this desire will be smaller and smaller and smaller, and at some point it will be gone, and I don't have to tolerate anymore. So that's the point here.
Mm. Yes, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment.
Namrata Mataji, you have any question?
Hare Krishna, accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to our dear Gurudev, and all glories to your service. Very, very wonderful class again, Mataji. Thank you for that. I agree with Raj Prabhu for the flow chart you gave. It becomes really very easier to understand. Thank you for that. My question. One question is the follow-up of what Raj Prabhu was asking. I think I kind of didn't understand. Then I'll ask my question. We need to tolerate, but as happens that we in circumstances. So how do we differentiate, or how do we come to the point that we should tolerate, or we should make some decision according to time and circumstances?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, you were breaking up your voice a little bit, but as I understand, your question was that sometimes in a certain situation we cannot tolerate, and how to decide when to tolerate and when not to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's always one thing comes into my mind in this regard, which was really helpful for me. One of our senior god sisters told me this story, that she was in a situation when she actually didn't know if she should tolerate anymore or not. She did some kind of service, and there were some difficulties there, and she started to ask devotees what they advise her, and she said that in the end, from so many different advices, two possibilities were clear. One is that okay, if you tolerate, you will be purified, and that's good for your spiritual life. And the other was that, okay, just get out of the situation. And so she still didn't know what to do. And she asked Guru Maharaj on the certain situation. And he told her that, okay, if you can tolerate the situation, then tolerate it, and then you will be purified. But if you are not able to tolerate it, then avoid it and change your service to something else. Because this was what she told me about this. My comments on it is that we have to be very honest with ourselves, because sometimes we are lazy and don't want to tolerate when we actually could do it. And it's just, trying to escape from situations which are for our own benefit. Because, suffering for whatever reason, what Krishna arranges for us is beneficial. But if we really cannot tolerate, then whatever happens is that we will commit offenses. And that will really cause problems, especially when we deal with devotees, because Vaishnava Aparad is really serious. So if I cannot tolerate and then just start to criticize the devotee here, there, and to another person, then it will be just, fall down. But if I can tolerate it, if I really can do it, then that's nice, because it's also not good to switch services every 3 months, because I'm just not able to cooperate with others, because there will be differences everywhere. And anyway, I will carry my mind with myself, so I can escape from so many things, but unfortunately I won't be able to escape my mind. So it really comes down to being honest with myself, if I can tolerate or not, because it can be beneficial, but it can be beneficial if I leave this situation and try to arrange something else. Did it answer your question? Because
yeah, it did. Thank you very much. I'm just thinking, to the degree of patience one has, one can develop the level of tolerance. So yeah, both the aspects are equally important. Tolerating is, of course, even good for your purification, for your spiritual life. But what I was concluding out of this is, if the situation is affecting your spiritual life, it would be a better option to walk out of that. That is what I have understood from what you're saying. Is it correct?
Sorry, I think I missed one point. So when it's good to get out of the situation?
Okay, if it's affecting our spiritual life,
yeah,
then it is better to walk out of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for that answer. So my question was, when you were talking about the 6.1.13-14 verse in Srimad Bhagavatam about the brahmacharya, we talked about one should not even think in mind about another gender.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, in the time of we are in Kali Yuga, in such a time, not thinking of another gender even in mind is sort of a big austerity. So how can one do it when most of the population is in the mode of passion and ignorance?
Well, as I could, I can just speak about my own experiences. I didn't hear anything about these practical points of this topic, but even in this Kali Yuga and our so-called modern society, we can try to look for such circumstances which are supportive our regulated spiritual life. For example, in my case, I I had problems with watching movies, and you know, it might not seem so serious because obviously not the more aggressive type of movies or something like that. But even if we watch very light type of things, I would say, then you know, maybe if the main character is a male, and then our attention is focused on that person, and actually we are meditating on a man. I mean, in my case as a woman, but also other movies are like women, and they do things which in many regards not according to our principles. So for example, we don't even know sometimes how damaging television and movies can be to our spiritual lives. But there are others out on the street, and just at the opposite side of the square where I live, there is a big advertisement about a woman who wears only this underwear type of thing. So more than half of her body is naked. And so whenever I go out on the streets, I see pictures like this. And while we are used to it, and you know, I just go by and almost don't even notice, but our minds, our brains catches these things. And if we get less impressions which agitates our mind, then more likely we will be able to control it. So actually what Guru Maharaj also wrote this book about farm communities, actually this is which is the most beneficial lifestyle for us, because then we are amongst people, amongst devotees who have the same priorities than ourselves, and everything is centered around Krishna, around a regulated lifestyle. So there won't be so many things which agitates our mind, you know. So our responsibility is in this regard is that try to look for such circumstances where our mind don't get so many of these impressions. On the other hand, you know, because Kali Yuga, it's not considered as a sinful activity if it's only in the mind. So here, yeah, in one sense, we won't get us negative karma for that. But if we continue to think about, in my case, man again and again and again, at some point, it will manifest on a gross level also, and in that case, it will be a problem. And also, there might be attachments from this. So we should try to avoid these thoughts, but obviously, it's not possible to totally avoid these. But we can follow a lifestyle which, at least to some extent, support these endeavors.
Thank you. Yeah, I think supportive circumstances, which is the solution, is the farm community. I am seeing that one here, and otherwise there will be some or the other thing, subtly or grossly, something or the other, especially when this is Kali Yuga.
Yeah, but you know, even farm communities won't be a 100% solution, because if there are Prabhus, obviously there might be some attachments for the ladies, and the other way around also. So there is no 100% solution, but you know, it's not just 0 or 1, but we can have endeavor for a more beneficial arrangement.
Yeah, that is why I was saying it is Kali Yuga. 100% things wouldn't be possible, but yeah, there are solutions for thank you for that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your questions. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice points. Sukava Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, Mataji. That was a lovely class. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the class. In connection to Raj Prabhu and Namrata Mataji's discussion about the suffering and getting away from the situation, I was thinking that if the suffering comes due to our bad karmas, if we get away also, is it anyhow? Because wherever we go, the karma is not going to leave us, isn't it? So best thing for me, I think is the tolerance. So if we tolerate that situation, accept it, and then eventually it changes, if that helps. Because that way you get rid of that karma, and then once the karma goes off, I don't think so there will be, the suffering still continues. What do you think of that?
Well, sometimes the karma ends by us having an intelligent decision of leaving the situation. So it's never so clear, I would say. So because okay, maybe I have to suffer something and I leave the situation, but then I will get it somewhere else. But I can try to leave the situation if it's possible. But also that's why I mentioned what Guru Maharaj said, both sides, because if it's not possible for us to tolerate, then it might be better to leave the situation.
Yeah, in extreme circumstances, I do agree with you. Yeah, we should. But as much as we can tolerate, my view will be just to tolerate as much as we can, so that at least
if I can tolerate, then it's it can be. And for example, I had one situation where I had some kind of conflict with one devotee here in Hungary. And it was really, really interesting because somehow the situation was that I couldn't really discuss the problem with this devotee. Also, part of the problem was that I was really, really hurt and rejected. And also the situation didn't really support discussion. And, even years went by in this mood. And somehow, because of my service, I had to interact with this devotee. And actually there was no escape, I could say. So, I could have left the country because of one person, but it was not an option. And something, I think it was 8 years ago or something. And in the last year, something happened and gradually it became better. And I didn't do anything. The other person didn't do anything, but something, it just, the karma went off. Or I don't know, it changed, but I really thought that I will carry this burden all my life till death. But in this case, for example, it was not a matter of choice, but even it had an end at some point. So every situation is a little bit different. So I really would say that there is no general.
That's right. Yeah. That is so true. Also about the avoiding the situations, what Namrata Mataji asked, in this Kali Yuga, we can avoid certain type of situation you explained. But I think it is very difficult for a grihastha and when we are working to avoid this situation and, living in the farm community all the time. Like, okay, that is the best idea. I would say that when we are in living simple life, the negative thoughts comes less. That is so true. But it's very difficult to avoid so many things when we are working, we are going out, we are meeting people. How do you go about that? In that scenario, what will you do?
I just watched a class from Keshava Swami lately. It was about a different topic. It was about writing a journal, but someone asked him, because his main point was that when we are writing a diary, a spiritual type of diary, then it's a possibility for us to discover our true feelings, our true position, and whatever is deep inside. And one devotee asked him about that. Oh my God, this is so frightening to seeing all our thoughts in front of us. And Keshava Swami said something really, really interesting, and that's how it connects here. He said that there are three things. One is that what is my current position, current situation. The other is what is the ideal. And there is a large gap between the two. And the third one, which connects these two, what is achievable for me right now. Mm-hmm. And that's the key point here, that I shouldn't do that, oh, this is such a huge gap. I will never, ever achieve the ideal. I cannot do it. So I just stay wherever I am. But it's also not good if I just, logistically start to endeavor for the idea, because at some point, because I'm not on that level, I won't reach it and I will be discouraged and just stop everything. So these are the modes of ignorance and passion. Mm-hmm. And the mode of goodness here is that, okay, what is achievable for me at this point? At least I try to take one step now, and I don't want to have my goal at the top of the stairs, because now I'm not able to get there. But it won't keep me from doing one step at a time. And whenever I'm comfortable there, then I take another step. So I think actually living in a city, it's one very interesting point, that we have to have some kind of endeavor, but always checking what is achievable at this point. And because there will be some kind of success there that will inspire us to again check out, okay, maybe even that other thing is achievable for me, and just one step at a time.
True. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Raj Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, thank you. It's been an interesting discussion today. I just wanted to add to your discussion with Namrata Mataji, in that I loved your example about, like, even if you avoided the films and the popular books and the magazines, and even if you avoided all of that, you go out in the street and you see a massive billboard that's designed to agitate the senses. And then it goes a step further, because if it's a fine summer's day, if you just look at how people are dressed, they're all designed, as particularly the young ladies, many of them are they're dressed in a way to agitate the senses. It's everywhere you go. So it is Kali Yuga, and that's how it is. It's absolutely everywhere, in the workplace, in the supermarket, in the bank, wherever you go. You can't escape from it. But Guru Maharaj always says to us, what do you want? Do you want material desires, or do you want Krishna? So we have to think about what we really want. And then Now I find that my strategy is, even if I get a tiny glimmer of a thought that's not favorable, a tiny glimmer, and I'm like, no, I don't want this. Get out of there, you rascal. And I'm like chanting at the heartfelt chanting. I'm chanting Narasimhadev prayers, like internally. It may not be externally because of the environment, but internally, I'm screaming the Narasimhadev prayers and screaming for protection and kicking that rascal out. And guess what? It works. It works. Most of the time, even surrounded by all of that nonsense, I'll tell you, normally it's like when I'm fast asleep, and sometimes I like become half awake or fully awake even, and there's that tiny glimmer of a thought. And I'm thinking, no, get out of here. Narasimhadev, Krishna. And it works. So whilst it's seemingly impossible, if the desire is there, the protection is also there, because Krishna is always with you. Narasimhadev is always with you. We can just call on, Guru Maharaj is always with you. We can just call on, because everywhere we go, like I remember like many in a class that Chandra Prabhu gave, and he said to us, like, okay, wherever you go, there are subtle energies. Many of them are not so nice, and they'll like lead you, push you down. But some of them are our protectors, our guardians, our saviors, who've come specifically to help us on our way. And at any point in time, we can call on our guardians, our helpers, our saviors, and we can push out those rascals, and we can progress on our path. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's actually, there were many points also in what you said. You actually reminded me something, because you mentioned that everything around us is designed to drag our consciousness towards the lower modes of nature. And you know, in this chart which I showed, actually whatever was there, that you know, the lower modes is where there is no free will. And actually that's why they do it, because in those modes of nature, we don't have free will, but we are the slaves of our senses, and that's what they want. And also your method of how to regulate your mind is really inspiring. Thank you very much for sharing it. And also whatever you mentioned in the end, that we have these guardians, it's very much also connected to this second verse, that there are these guardians, but the main point is if we follow them, or you know, they are there, they try to protect us, and we just go out in front of the army without any armor and just come on, all these sense objects, and try to connect to those. So it's our responsibility to accept the protection of these guardians. So it's very important. Meanwhile, I just remembered I would like to share you something with you. It's just one picture here, which shows this, which we spoke about previously, that the first step. Because sometimes when we see it, it's more powerful.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Your flowcharts and your diagrams are very catchy to understand. Thank you so much. Thank you all for the nice discussion. Any more questions or comments before we end? Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji, once again for a nice class and covering those two verses. And yeah, yes, Prabhuji, with Guru Maharaj's mercy. Yes. So thank you so much for the nice discussion, dear devotees. So we'll end the call here. And tomorrow there is ISKCON Harrisburg devotees class. I didn't check the verse number. I'll put it in the WhatsApp group, but the time is tomorrow at 1 p.m. UK time. So it will be 8 a.m. Eastern, and for India, it will be 5:30 p.m. IST. So please join accordingly. I'll send the details in the WhatsApp group. Thank you so much for all. Thank you, Mataji, once again. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindu bevacha. Patitana Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Radha Vinodini Mataji ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.